Hello, it's time for Combat Patrol Carnage. So we're here to begin delivery 5, and I hope you've all had a good Christmas, because I had an okay one. Got some nice stuff unboxed, built up and ready to paint for the new year. But today we're here to look at this. It's issue 15 of Combat Patrol, and it sees the arrival of our big centerpiece model for the Tyranids, the Psychophage. So inside the magazine we have some new fiction in which we battle a Psychophage. We also have our datasheet for the Psychophage. Rules-wise, we have rules for cover and terrain, as well as we have some new data cards to look over as well. And here are the data cards. So first off, we've got a set of terrain, which is marked out in some green L shapes on one sheet. The other sheet, we have our faction rules, which we'll be learning about in a later issue. And our final sheet has our final 3 data cards plus a turn order card. Of course, this issue came with the Psychophage kit, and here it is, a single frame with a rather big Tyranid on it. Only made up of a few components, which is quite nice, so it's easy for beginners. And we also get a nice large 120mm oval base for him to stand on. So before we hit the table, don't forget to do all the usual. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment down below. Let me know how you're getting on with your Christmas hoard, and what is your standout model that you've got. For me, didn't get a lot, but I really think I'm looking forward to the Lord of the Rings stuff the most. It's definitely a nice starter set, and yeah, those new models look fantastic. Finally, don't forget that Combat Patrol Carnage is proudly sponsored by warbay.shop, your one-stop supply for all your hobby needs. They have everything from new and used models for different game systems to your paints and hobby supplies. They also stock gaming aids such as dice, tokens, and range rulers. They're also stockists of Combat Patrol magazine, so if you want extra copies, as we're coming up to some really good ones, make sure you get orders in with them. They will always be able to get some stock in. Right, let's hit the table and we'll build and paint our Psychophage. So here we are then with issue 15. So we've got a lot to look at before we start building. So we've got our frame here of the Psychophage. So we've got 2 big halves of the body, and then we've got 6 legs, plus he's got a tongue to be put in as well. So yeah, not a lot of components, but still a rather imposing model. And yeah, quite fearsome looking as well. All those tentacles in its mouth and those huge scything talons as well. Very dangerous from either end really, because it's got ones facing backwards as well, and it's got a stinger sort of thing there as well. And you can see the insides. You can see the inside of it's more filled with teeth. Poor Space Marine arm being devoured there. And it's chucking out anything it digests with toxic fog there. Pretty cool. So we'll get that guy built up in just a sec, but first off, let's take a look at our new data cards. So we've got data cards for all our new units, so we'll punch these out. Recycle that. So we have a Combat Patrol turn breakdown card, so very helpful for reminding you. So you start your command phase, movement, shooting, charge, and then your fights, and then you swap turns. So we've got our bonus units here. We've got the chaplain on bike. So for Combat Patrol inclusion, if I can get the camera to focus. So we want to take out the librarian and swap it for this guy. So we got a optional unit. He's pretty cool. He's got an Absolver bolt pistol, twin bolt rifles on the bike, and he's got his Crozius. So he's got Canticles of Fire. So each time this model's unit is selected to shoot, you can select one enemy unit within 12 inches and visible to the end phase. Ranged weapons equipped by models in this model's unit have devastating wounds ability when targeting that unit. Pretty cool. Pity he can't be attached to anything. He'd have been quite nice if we had a unit of bikes for him to go with. Up next we've got the Psychophage, so we'll need this guy next issue when we actually put the Psychophage to use. So he's got the Feeding Frenzy rule, which we'll learn about later on. He's got the Psychophage Blast there, he's Psychoclastic Torrent. And then he's got his Talons and more, which are pretty potent weapons for facing off against Psychers. And then we got the Parasite and Mortrex. So in order to include this guy, you remove the Barb Gaunt unit and you can put this guy in. And yeah, he makes use of having the Ripper Swarms in our army, because he can we don't actually have that rule. That's really annoying. But he's supposed to be able to cause, when enemies die, to have Rippers pop out in place. But yeah, that's kind of cool. So he does force battle shock tests, though, even if units are fully healthy, which is pretty cool. Yeah, he's a pretty cool model, a nice addition to our Tyranid force. Up next then, we have our faction abilities. We'll look at these later in a different issue. I think issue 17 and 18, we start looking at faction abilities, but we've got 2 for the Space Marines and 2 for the Tyranids. So we have stratagems we can use, we have enhancements we can use, and we have faction abilities as well. There you can see we've got Synapse and Oath of Moment. So like I said, won't be using those at the moment, but they'll come into play later on. But for this issue, the ones we do want are these cool terrain cards. I've actually photocopied these, and I'm going to dig through my bits box and try to make up some of these terrain pieces into 3D elements. I don't have anything that I can use for this, but I do have crates and ammo and weapons. I've got some barrels. I could probably make some sort of hose. Tires, again, I don't really have anything, but I could try digging through. I've got some toy tires, might be able to use those. But yeah, there we have it. They're double-sided, so you got the green side and you got the plain side. So green side for tutorial games, plain side for normal games. There, they'll be quite handy, adding to our Tyranid-themed ones. Alright then, let's adjust the magazine and we'll have a look at our guides first of all before we go to building and painting. So into our issue we go. So we have quite a lot in this issue, but again it's pretty small at the same time. So we've got our build and paint guides to the Psychophage. So build guide's pretty simple, but the paint guide's going to be quite in depth at the moment. We have a short story called Soul Feeder in which we encounter a Psychophage. We have our collect article for it, so we get to name it and find out its abilities. Then we got tutorials on how to utilize cover and terrain. And then we got our latest scenario battle lines. So, like I said, we'll go over the guides and then I'll bring in my paint desk and build station ready for getting on and building this guy. So, we'll make sure you put the tongue in before you put the 2 halves of the body together. What I do suggest is don't put glue where the pegs and posts go. You want to put glue around the contact points so that there's no chance of trapped air or liquid in the ports, so that when the posts go in, everything should fit together quite nicely. You want to make sure you squeeze pretty hard, maybe even trim down the pegs, as you don't want to have any unsightly gaps. And this is a kit notorious for them. I've been lucky. I think I had one model that came out a little bit bad, but yeah, not too bad otherwise. So yeah, just take your time building it, squeezing, applying steady, even pressure. And yeah, try to keep your glue on the contact points, so as you can see around the head and stuff there. Then we've got the arms and legs to glue in, which you can leave separate if you want, but they don't really intrude anywhere. The only thing I will suggest is to leave it unattached to its base. You want to make sure you at least undercoat it all underneath before you finish gluing it down. But it is, again, a pretty open model, as we can see in the paint guide. So what we want to do, first off, we want to get 3 coats of Wraithbone. For those of you who've had your subscriber gifts paint set with issue 4, use your large base brush. It's going to definitely make things easier for you. If you want to make things easier, yet again, I do suggest grabbing a can of Wraithbone spray and getting it spray coated if you can. It's going to take a lot of paint to get this guy coated with 3 coats, but yeah, persevere, take time. Personally, I'd do the underside first, push it back down to its base, and then do everything else afterwards, and then come back and do the same again for 3 coats. But once you've got that down, we want to go to Barracknard Burgundy, a couple of coats to cover over the Wraithbone with, and yeah, you want to cover all the carapace, bits on the arms and legs as well, and don't forget the stinger area. Then we want to paint all the claws, Abaddon black, as well as the vents on the side here, and the ribbing on the Space Marine leg arm. Then we want to pick out the blue, the power armor here. And then we're painting the entirety of those tentacles with Screamer Pink. So you want to make sure you can reach right into the mouth, which is another reason why it's a good idea to leave it off the base, so you can turn it over and not have the base in the way. After that, we want to paint the fumes of Corax white and painstakingly pick out all the teeth with Wraithbone. So that's going to be a dickens of a job, but yeah, take your time. Just give a coat on the uppermost areas, should be fine. Yeah, looks pretty cool. And there's our Psychophage, up to the magazine standard so far. He does look pretty fearsome, at least. Really cool. Right, so let's bring in our model and my workstation, and we'll get on and build this guy. So here we are, here's the workstation. I got all my paints ready for when we paint him. Got my glue, my knife, and my clippers. So like I said, we'll put the base off to one side for the moment as we can focus on building this guy. So we need to cut out part 1, 2, and 3 first of all. So let's get those clipped off the frame and cleaned up. So there we have our parts of the body cleaned up, cut out. Now to apply some glue. So for the tongue, you want to apply a little bit of glue just in where the contact points meet, as well as this hole here where the clip goes. And then gently push it into place like so. So it should sit just there on the bottom of the maw. Now we can apply glue to the rest of the contact points. Like so. We want to line up all our posts and ports. And squeeze together as tight and firmly as possible. And yeah, we have a perfect seal, looks like it. What we can do once the glue is fully dry is come back with our knife and go over areas where the two halves meet so that they blend together better. So I'll leave that off to dry. Now we can start cleaning up, cutting out and cleaning up all the limbs. So it asks us to do one side at a time so we don't get confused, but they are pretty identifiable. So we need parts 5, 7 and 8. So 5 is the front arm, 7 is this one, and 8 is the big one there. There we have our first set of limbs. So what I've done off camera is I've just cleaned up the connector point so a little more blend in. So now we can apply some glue into the sockets for the legs. So we've got locator nubs on some of them, as you can just about see in there, and you can see on the end of the leg there, so at least we can position them correctly like so. And we got this one, which again has a locator nub to help it slide in correctly. And this one we haven't really got a connector nub, but we do have a position where it sort of lips over the end of the torso there. You want to make sure everything's lined up flattish, like so, so that everything will go down to the base quite nicely. So next up then we'll clip out the last of the legs, so 4, 6 and 9. There we go, that's the last set of legs clipped out. Now we can glue them in. Again, they've got little locator tabs, as you can see just in there. So a bit of glue in each of these holes. Again, I'll make sure you try and get them as flat as possible. This one is sort of up and over the front like so. And then our last big leg going in like so. We got 1, 2, 3 posts that will go into the base. When you do glue them down, you want to make sure you put glue on all of these flat areas as well for a solid fit. But for the moment, we're going to try and leave him as loose as possible. This is the fiddly bit. Once you get one in, the rest should follow. There we go. He's down as best I can for the moment, but I'm going to be tearing him off in a sec, as now it's time to get him painted. So I'm going to get this guy undercoated first of all, and then I'll be back to show you the application of the rest of the colours. So there we have it. That's our Psychophage all base coated with Wraithbone. Now we can start working on the rest of the colours. So we'll start with Barracknar Burgundy. And this is going to go over, you guessed it, all the carapace. So we've got quite a lot to do. You've got panels down by the mouth here. All over the head. You got the ones on the claws. Don't matter if we get on the actual claw, we're painting these black soon anyway. Just be careful around the joints in the leg. Oops. And we got all of this up at the back, including this small bit down the front here, but not the underside. You want to keep that to the Wraithbone. So the bit between there and there. Alright, I'm going to work on this. I'll be back in a bit. There's the Barracknar Burgundy down. While that is drying, we can move on to painting black details. So I get a small amount of black prepared on my palette there. So we got the 3 claws on either side. And we've also got these little vents. Again, you'll probably need 2 layers of this. Speaking of vents, you can see where I've left the vents as clear as I can on the funnels there, or chimneys. So now working our way around the model, getting the rest of the black details. Up next is a small detail. We need Macragge blue for that Space Marine arm. And then we can move on to the Scream pink for all the tentacles. Just a small amount of blue. That's all we need. Then we'll pick out the armor panels. And the hand gripping. Don't worry about getting it on the tentacles, we'll be picking those out pink, as I said. If you have a different coloured Space Marine army, now would be the time to swap out the appropriate colour so that it all matches up nicely. While waiting for that blue to dry that side, we'll start picking out the tentacles on this side. So you want to get right underneath here, where they start, and then go up to the edge of the armour plating, like so. Don't worry about getting any of the pink on the detail where the tentacles wrap around the scenery. That'll be picked out in a future issue. But for now, I want to get a good solid coat of pink all over. And we want to also reach the inside of the mouth as well. So the medium base brush I'm using here will be perfect for that. And don't forget to pick out the tongue as well. One little bit to make sure you don't forget is the stub of the arm at the end there. Pick that out with pink for a grisly effect. As you can see, I've took it off the base to reach the inside of the mouth, so that's all drying nicely. And our last colour before tidy up and painting the teeth is going to be Corax White, which I'm going to pick out all of this smoke with. So I want to do a couple of layers, especially where we've overspilled with the Baron Burgundy. And there we have it. Our Psychophage is painted up to the current magazine standard. As you can see off camera, I did all the teeth. Quite a tedious task. I don't think I've ever done it on my previous models. You can just leave them all pink. I've picked out the larger teeth, as the magazine says. But yeah, not for everybody to paint all that little detail, but still done quite nicely. Yeah, looking forward to putting some more colours on him in a future issue. For those of us who have had the premium kit, we know how we finish off our Tyranid models, and we've also seen the latest list of issues, so we now know what paints we're getting and when. So we're getting a lot of shades, plus a shade brush coming very soon. First shades are Nuln Oil and Caribou Crimson, so usable on both our Space Marines and our Tyranids. So yeah, we'll be putting some more colours to these guys in the near future. We're also getting Avalanche Sunset fairly soon, in the next delivery actually, so we'll be able to paint the eyes on our Tyranids, and I can't remember what the other paint was. I think it was a brown, I'm not sure. I'll try and find out and put it in post. But yeah, there we have it. So that's the paint guide, build guide for issue 15. We've also looked at our data cards, so we'll see these return in a future video as we have rules tutorials to look at. Yeah, there we have it. Up next is a couple of pages of lore. So I think that's all I have to say. So thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time on more Combat Patrol Carnage. Goodbye.